Alright guys, as promised, we're going to tackle the TJ, 2001 Jeep Wrangler TJ today. I told you this had a JK Unlimited suspension on it. Come take a look down here. Coil spring, everything fits fine. The biggest pain in the butt though is getting the factory one out and getting this one back in there. I had to go rent spring compressors from the local parts store. That's the way to go. Be careful with those. I'm pretty sure I didn't use them right, but I got lucky and did not kill myself using them. Anywho, Terraflex spring spacer block with a coil spring isolator. This is the factory isolator, and a lot of people don't stack 3 deep. I haven't had any problem with it. You can see the factory bump stop sticking out. I don't have to worry about anything popping off. I'm not going to be, flexing this thing out by any means, but yeah, these are pretty solid pieces here, and I left that one on there just so it wasn't raked at all on the front. This is a pretty level kit here. This height matches the JKU stock spring height. No spacers or isolators on the back or anything, but we'll get to that. One problem I did have, your sway bar disconnects have Torx fittings or hex fittings on them from the factory. I don't know why anybody would do that. Number one, I mean, these things were on there pretty good. I stripped one of them out. I had to end up hacksawing the thing off. So what I did was I just went and got me some grade A bolts and nuts and stuck on there, and that's good to go. But yeah, in order to get these coil springs off and make this front axle tilt enough to where you could get under here and work, you had to take your sway bar end links off and kind of let the front end dangle free. Shocks off of the stock JK. You see the bar pin eliminator kit down here. That's another hard thing to do with these things, is getting the bar pin out of the factory shock. Once you get that out, smooth sailing. Everything kind of just bolts up here to the front fairly easily. And also one more note for the front, you'll see a tag on those springs, and these are labeled with a 17. This is kind of in the middle. A 16 is what they put on the two-door JK's. Spring rate's not as stiff, and there's an 18, and that goes on the JK Unlimited Rubicon. Again, stiffer springs, they don't wear out as easily, but this is in the middle. This is just off your run-of-the-mill sport 4-door JK Unlimited Wrangler. But yeah, let's go take a look at the back now. All right, we're underneath the back of the Jeep now, driver's side. Take a look at the spring. These basically fit right into place. The top coil is small, too small to fit on the factory spring rest there. So you can either cut the coil, you can get the top rung of the coil hot and open it up and it will fit. Or you could do what I did and buy a bump stop extender, and that fits in between the tightest rung of that coil, and it holds that spring into place, and it's been fine for me. I'll put about 3,000 or 4,000 miles on this Jeep and have had no problems. Something else you'll have to modify a little bit, minor modification. There is a sleeve that runs through this shock that is too wide to fit on this shock mount. And all you need to do is hit that with a grinder. A lot of people will bend that shock mount. I don't like that because it tends to make your holes not really line up that well, and the more you bend the metal back here, obviously is not a good thing. You bend it once, it's not as strong as it was the first time, but I pried on a little bit and bent it. Same thing for the right side of the Jeep. These are springs off of a Jeep with a tow package, so they're a little bit stiffer, a little bit stronger. Like I said before, the Rubicon springs are probably the best ones to have, and the Rubicon shocks will be red. They're stiffer, they don't wear out as fast, but the tow package, that's the next best thing. Especially if you're going to do aftermarket bumpers, you're going to do aftermarket or bigger wheels and tires and really weigh the back end of your Jeep down and do a lot of towing, you're going to want something with a little bit more stiffness. moving to the underside of the Jeep transmission transfer case drop. Yeah, just a 1-inch drop. I went ahead and painted all this stuff. I got a little bit of rot right there, but it's not too bad. You can feel around inside of here, and it's not terrible. There's plenty of metal left in there, so I'm not worried about that. And I hit it with a primer and then hit it with this and try to scrape as much of that stuff off as I can. But yeah, this is so you don't get any driveline vibration anytime you change the angle of your drive shaft. That can be hard on universal joints and everything else. This helps alleviate that, so you're going to need that as well. And I got all my stuff off of either Quadratec or Morris 4x4. Quick, good service, never had a problem with them. Now for the stuff I took off the Jeep. Now the sway bar and everything like that, that is from a stock JK. My brother didn't need it anymore because he put the AEV lift on his, so this just kind of came in the box of all the stuff. I don't have the shocks. I don't know where my stock shocks went. I don't need them anyways. I don't even know why I kept this because it's been on there for a month and a half, but it's here. And I'll just kind of explain some things to you. I was telling you about the rear spring on that JKU suspension. The top of the coil on that one is smaller, so it won't seat properly. There's a little indention in the top of that spring rest that sits down in here. Then your bump stop screws up underneath it. The JKU spring has a tighter coil at the top, so that's why you need that bump stop extender that fits through the diameter of the hole on the stock spring for the JK. If you're going to put the JK spring on your TJ, you just get that bump stop extender, slide it through there, bolt it up, holds everything in place. Like I said, haven't had any trouble with it. Or you can heat the top of the coil, which weakens the spring. That's why I didn't do it, and open it up. Or you can just take a grinder and chop the top of the coil off. That'll give you less lift. Nobody wants less lift. So that's that. That is the Wrangler. You can see about 3 to 3.5 inches of lift all the way around it. Like I told you guys in the intro video, this has 31s on it, and they had that on the clapped out stock suspension. No rubs, no nothing. I got enough fender well there. Pretty sure I can get 35s on there. Let me know if you got a Jeep with 3.5 inches of lift and you can run 35s. Let me know. I won't hesitate. I'll put them on this. We'll be getting new wheels. Thinking about the soft 8s. It's a black wheel with enough back spacing to where I won't have any rubs when I turn. But that's the Jeep. More things to come on that. It's only 119,000 miles on this thing. Runs like new. Knock on wood. All right, guys, so now is the question of, is it worth it? To me, yes, it was worth it, because I got a 3-inch suspension lift, the springs and the shocks for free. It was better than what was on here anyways. The stock suspension was clapped out. I only had to spend money on tools, which I can use again, so I'm not gonna count that as part of the build cost. And I only had to buy the coil spacers for the front end of the Jeep and the bar pin eliminator and shock mount relocator kit for the front and the back. I'm into this thing minus the tools for around 75 bucks, 3 inches of lift. How can you complain about that? You really can't. As far as the difficulty for the installation, the back, out of a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say the back is probably a 3. All you need is a ratchet, really, and you can get that done. No problem, no questions asked. The front is a bear. The front, you have to rent, if you don't have already, you have to rent your coil spring compressors, which, trust me, those things saved my life when I was trying to fight and get the old coils out and then get the new coils in, especially with all of that block lift I had under the front of this thing to begin with. You can imagine me trying to fight those springs to get them on with that budget block lift on the front anyway. So that's the hardest part. That took me 8 hours to do. I would say that is probably somewhere between a 5 and a 6 if you know what you're doing. I didn't really know what I was doing. I mean, it's not hard to figure out which bolts you have to take apart and where everything goes, but like I said, I've never used coil spring compressors before, never really done any kind of suspension work before, so it took me about 8 hours to do, and I was exhausted afterwards, and it was just me with 2 jack stands, a impact gun, and a floor jack. If you have a buddy, it will go faster. If you have a buddy that knows what they're doing, it will go twice as fast, I'm sure. But all in all, I'm happy with it. I'm proud of myself for getting it on there and nothing having fallen off in the 3,000 miles that I've driven this thing since it's been on there. So yeah, if you can get your hands on a 4-door kit, especially from a JK, and you have an old TJ you want to put a lift on, check Craigslist. Look at them. You can get them pretty inexpensive. A lot of places will just even give you the stuff to, you know, you got a guy that's got a lift on his new Jeep. He wants to get rid of his stuff. You know, he'll hand it off to you. Even if you can get it for $100, it's, you know, it's factory suspension. This thing rides great. It rides a heck of a whole lot better than it did factory. But yeah, that's the suspension on the TJ, and keep a lookout for more videos to come. We'll keep them coming on this and the GTO. You guys take care.